L'chaim l'bracha. To life and to blessings. Do you feel that the kindnesses don't end? Or you came to the end of the road and the kindnesses have ended? What do you say, folks? Kindnesses in your life. Do you feel that they don't end? Or do you feel like, sometimes you're at the end of the road of the kindnesses in your life? Anybody? What do you? Okay, this is already too much to ask, huh? Too personal. Too. Sometimes you feel like
overwhelmed by the kindness, or it's underwhelmed because you're
underwhelmed, or like I've received already my fill of kindnesses, and now I'm working, on the edge of the abyss. L'chaim. Or do we feel in our lives that the kindnesses never end?
the mere fact that we got up this morning.
Oh, the mere fact that he got up this morning, right? Very good. Right. So the kindnesses don't end. That's when you get up. How about the rest of the day? Are the rest of the days, are they full of kindnesses? Or are they full of drudgery? Got to go back to school. Summer is over. Oh my gosh. We heard the shofar blast today, and a reminder, you got to do tshuva, and all that stuff. Oh my gosh, I got to replenish the pantry with all of the gifts of life, the kindnesses from God. Or is it full, the pantry? Chaim. I'm being difficult on all of you, right? No one wants to answer.
I think when you cultivate a sense of gratitude for what you have, you recognize, and it's easier said than done, admittedly, then you realize that kindness is always following you.
Very good.
Having that sense of gratitude at every moment that you have.
Yeah. All right. Excellent. Welcome to Tanya Today. Rabbi Ronnie Fine coming to you for Chabad Zichron Kadesh in Montreal, Canada, where it's a privilege and a pleasure to share with you the Tanya. We begin the 10th letter. And in this, the Alter Rebbe begins with after greetings of life and peace. Right. He's going to arouse and give a life-giving admonishment. He's going to admonish us. The prophet Jeremiah, in the midst of destruction, because he was a prophet during the destruction of the first Holy Temple in the 6th century before the Common Era, over 2,500 years ago. And he said in Lamentations, Eicha, which we read on Tisha B'Av, remember, by night we read it. So he said, Chazdei Hashem ki lo tamnu. The kindnesses of God have surely not ended. Even though, can you imagine, you're sitting there, death and destruction, right? Death and destruction, and this is what he's saying. That's a prophet of God, right? Yes. So there's a question that's asked, though, on those words of Yirmiyahu the prophet. Because for those who understand Hebrew, it should have said, Chazdei Hashem ki lo tamu, that the kindnesses of God, they don't end. But tamnu means that we don't end. What does that mean exactly? It's written, right? That we have not ended. What does that mean exactly? So it implies two things over here then. The Alter Rebbe says. It implies that kindnesses of God have not ended. There's death and destruction in front of you. God's kindnesses have not ended. And secondly, that we stand in need of God's kindnesses because we are not tamim, a different play on the words, which means yesterday's Torah studies, we're not perfect. In other words, we are in need of God's kindnesses because of our imperfections. We're not complete. Okay? Got it?
So in other words, we need him constantly to improve ourselves.
We need his kindnesses. In other words, no, let's put it this way. If you work the day's work and you worked for someone, you made up that you're going to get paid $20 an hour, right? $50, whatever it is, you're getting paid, right? And you worked and did the work. When your balabas, your proprietor who hired you, comes say, "Oh, I'm going to do a kindness now with you, and I'm going to give you, you worked 5 hours. Here's $100. 20 times 5. I'm doing a kindness with you." Is that true?
No.
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 Why?
Because he hired you for that.
Because he did a perfect job. So you're not doing kindness, right? So we don't do a perfect job for God, who is our balabas, right? And therefore, we need God's kindness. Right? Is that clear? Make sense?
Yeah.
And we get it. Exactly. Right? So those are the two things that come together. Okay. Now, we're gonna come back to this idea, but now we're gonna go elsewhere. We're gonna go now to a teachings of the Zohar. Okay? The Zohar says there are two different types of chesed. We're talking about kindness. So when we're talking about kindness, we need to understand what is kindness now, right? Oh, we got the prophet with us. Just because you're a prophet doesn't mean you shouldn't learn. You will profit from the learning. L'chaim.
Beautiful words. Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, folks. There are two types of chesed, two types of kindness. Okay. There's chesed olam, meaning a kindness of the world, which is world-like, meaning it's limited, a limited kindness. And then there's chesed ilah, supernal kindness, which is rav chesed, abundance of kindness without end. Two types. Okay? That clear?
Yes.
Okay. So now the Alter Rebbe is going to explain. Chesed olam, what does it mean? A limited form of kindness. Right? In other words, it's all God's kindness that brings the flow of divinity into this world, right? Brings life, brings vitality, brings, everything, right? Everything from above, right? So the two types of kindnesses that we want to draw from above. These two types, right? Chesed of the world and a boundless chesed, rav chesed, the two types. Okay, now we know that Torah is called oiz, which means strength, right? That says Hashem oiz le'amo yitain, Hashem yivarach esamo, right? God grants strength to his people. And what is the strength that he grants us? Torah. That's the strength that he gives us, right? What's the language that's used for strength? Is gvura. Gvura is the opposite of chesed. Chesed is kindness, gvura is strength, right? Strength means withholding, right? Who's a strong person? Who can hold themselves back, can hold themselves back. Don't say what you shouldn't say. don't act what you shouldn't, that's a strong person, right? So strength means holding back. The opposite of chesed, giving. The opposite of kindness. Kindness is giving, not holding back, right? What's the reference we have of Torah? It's God's strength that he gives to us. It's the left side, not the right side of kindness, right? And as the verse says, that our sages say that the 613 commandments were declared by Moshe at Sinai from the mouth, mipia gvura, from the mouth of gvura, from God's mouth. But the term of God is gvura, strength, not kindness. So Torah seemingly is not coming from kindness, it's coming from gvura, strength, right? Also it says in the verse, in Dvarim, actually in the book that we're learning in Deuteronomy, later on it says, that from his right hand the Torah of fire is given. Fire is an expression of chesed? No. What's the expression of chesed? Is water. Right? Kindness, because what's water? It goes from a high place and goes to the lowest point. Kindness is, it comes from on high, from the high place, and it goes to the lowest point down here to us. In the lowest place, God's kindness is found, right? But fire is the opposite. Goes up, right? That's gvura, strength. Whoa, awesome fire that was. You don't say a kind fire, you say awesome, left, gvura, right? Powerful. That's what it is. So Torah is metaphorically like fire, gvura, right? But there's a problem there. What does it say in the verse? What does it say, folks? Right hand. Well, that right hand is kindness, but it's fire. What's going on over here? Right? So the Alter Rebbe explains. What does that mean? So does Torah come from God's kindness, or does it come from his strength? So obviously, it's the two coming together, right? Torah is called Torah's chesed. It's called Torah of kindness, right? For sure. Yet, it needs to be expressed through fire, through gvura. What does that mean? What does it mean? So no question, Torah is God's kindness. It is the right side. It is it's a benefit that flows from above down below to the lowest point to all of us down here, that we have it, right? Eliciting from God an infinite radiance of the divine, right? That no question. All of the worlds, right? But in order that you be affected and be drawn down that light upon us, how is that done? Through 248 positive commandments. Why 248 commandments? In other words, to draw that chesed of God, that God's kindness and his light that we should draw down here, the only way we can do it is the way God says. He says, well, do the commandment. That's how you'll do it, right? Give tzedakah, pray, right? Shabbos, kosher, and so on, right? 248 positive commandments. Why 248 positive commandments? Because God is made up, as a king is made up of 248 organs, figuratively speaking, right? As metaphorically, right? So meaning God is made up of the 248. So and why that? Because God, the 248 commandments are God's will. I just moved my hand. How come? Because I willed it. So God wills 248 expressions of him, as I will to move now a thumb, a pinky. Those are different body parts, 248 body parts that are moved or have an expression because I will it, right? So God's will is expressed in 248 components, 248 commandments. That's of him, and that's why we have 248 parts of our body likewise. Okay? Because each mitzvah will be a particular expression of the will of God as it is by him. That meaning, through me doing this with tefillin or doing that with tzedakah, right, and so on, I am eliciting what? What am I eliciting from on high? God's kindness. God's kindness, right? That's where Torah comes from, right? That's what I'm eliciting through the commandment, right? His attribute of kindness, I am a downflow into here. Yet, that's not sufficient. Why? Because that God's kindness has to go through God's gvura. It has to go through a contraction. It's first vested in the attribute of gvura, which is the metaphor of fire. What is gvura? Contraction, right? Hey, when you want to show that you're strong, what do? What are you doing now? You're contracting your muscle. That's showing strength, right? You're contracting your muscle, literally, right? Some of us are so kind that we have no muscle to contract. You know, when I do with my grandchildren, I say, "Show, give me a muscle." So I go like this to them. Whoa, that's strong. L'chaim, l'chaim, l'chaim. So it's got to go through Hashem's gvura. Why? Because that's the way they contract it. Because if not, then the mitzvah would not be expressed in anything of the material world. Thank you, Shmuel. It wouldn't be expressed in the material world. It would remain just a light that is abstract beyond this world, right? But now that it goes through gvura, contraction, so that contraction now will now have an expression of the mitzvah, the will of God, his organ, right, that he moves, right? And we move him by when I do it in my organ, but what do I have to do? A physical act of something, physical act of putting on a tefillin. So therefore tefillin are made from leather, and that's why tzitzis are made from wool, and so on and so forth, right? Is that clear?
I'm sorry, why? What connection did you make with the leather and wool?
It's physical. In other words, if Torah was only an expression of God's kindness and it didn't go through gvura, meaning contraction, so then the expression of the mitzvah down here wouldn't be in a physical manner. Mitzvahs would be just a spiritual thing.
Yes.
But since it's going through the contraction of Hashem's gvura, right, the metaphor of fire, right, the contraction, now the expression of God's will down here will be through a physical act. So you're putting on tzitzis that have to be made from wool. I mean, cotton also, but preferred from wool to make tzitzis, right? To put on physical leather straps. In other words, the mitzvah of tefillin, if it didn't have a contraction, would be just a spiritual thought, maybe. It would be a spiritual thought. If it was only expression of God's kindness, right? So it wouldn't have a contraction to it. So then it wouldn't express itself in a physical manner down here. Even the mitzvahs like to love God and to have awe of God also has to be actually felt in the heart. In other words, it has to be a physical expression of it for it to be truly a mitzvah that we fulfill. Right? Is that clear? We once expressed, we all experienced that love. I mean, that love palpably, all of us. When was that? Mount Sinai. We experienced the love and awe of God so great when he spoke that our souls took flight. That's how powerful it was, what we experience, right? Just showing that how every mitzvah has to be expressed in the physical, right? And we're in the middle of a thought to be continued. Is that clear? Any questions on this? Clear? Clear and powerful, I hear. Okay, amazing. I don't see any questions. Any questions here?
Yeah, so doesn't it say in the Siddur, for example, that he attacks the enemies with his right hand?
Mincha. Yeah, you're right.
It seems like.
And the Az Yashir, yeah, and Az Yashir.
I was noticing that it's like an act of judgment, but with his right hand. I was surprised to see that.
Good question. Yemincha. Shem Tiratzoyev. Yeah. We said in Az Yashir, in the song Splitting the Sea. Yeah. Good question. But we have to look it up. We have to see what Rashi says on it first.
That's an act of kindness as well to, on behalf of the Egyptians, because if they continued, they would have annihilated all of Israel. So it's a
yeah, but yeah, I hear what you're saying, but the power of doing it is in the left, not the right, right? But maybe that the kindness, right? For example, today, to bring an example to what you're saying, would be that it's a kindness to kill Hamas. It's a kindness not just to the world, it's a kindness to them, because that way they will stop killing innocent people, right? So it's a kindness. But okay, that maybe, but we need to look it up, because that's our thought. And we have to know that when we say something, might be, and also might not be. Right? So we have to be careful with that. That and others knowing that what you're saying, there might be something to it, but let's check it out. You got a second thing to check out now? Or are you going to check this one out? You're going to check this one out? You're going to check, okay, we got two things. I'm expecting tomorrow to hear from both of you.
The reason why I said that is that because they were not supposed to rejoice at the deaths of the Egyptians, because Hashem made them.
Well, no, they did. They sang.
Yeah, but
the angels couldn't rejoice. The angels couldn't rejoice.
There was a discussion in Zohar that says if somebody does a Jew wrong, let's say they hurt a Jewish person, if that person is non-Jewish, then God is delivering his whatever punishment he wanted to deliver to a Jew in a harsh way. But if he chooses a Jew to do the wrong, then he's doing it in a kind way, meaning the fact that he chose a Jew to do the wrong thing to him is coming out of kindness. Like he wants to correct the tap, but he doesn't want to do it with
interesting.
With harshness.
Right. So that's the opposite of what you just said. Menachem Hillel just said.
That's Hamas wants for that as well.
Right. Yeah. All right. Okay, folks, Rambam coming up. Come and join us. All right, amazing. I don't see any